If you want to know if you should get your old Mercury Amalgam filling removed, stay tuned. Now, if you're like me, you're probably wondering why the heck are they still using this stuff when we know that mercury is a potent neurotoxin. And in this video, I'm going to talk about dental amalgam and the toxic mercury in it, and how these fillings can even crack teeth, and the risks involved when we are removing these fillings, and why it has to be done very safely to protect us, and when it might be even better just to leave them untouched. So let's get started. Dental amalgam is basically a mixture of liquid mercury and a powder which contains zinc, silver, copper and tin and other trace metals. It gets mixed in a capsule, and then it's a paste, and then it gets put into the teeth. But here's the thing, that filling is constantly releasing small amounts of mercury vapor. And once that vapor is inhaled, 80% is instantly absorbed by the lungs and it gets into the bloodstream. And then it accumulates throughout the body. Here are some facts about mercury. It's the most poisonous, non-radioactive, naturally occurring substance on Earth. And these fillings, they are continuously releasing mercury vapor. And heat, for example, will increase the vapor release. Now here is where it gets really dangerous, because mercury is not only destructive to nerve cells like our brain cells, but it is also extraordinarily toxic to the fetus and the nursing baby. And there are over 100 symptoms and diseases that are related to chronic mercury poisoning. That's right, over 100. However, even in the light of the proven toxicity, the American Dental Association claims that amalgam fillings are completely safe, because only where small amounts of mercury gets released, they are not doing much harm. But here's the thing, there's overwhelming evidence that even small amounts of mercury vapor are dangerous. Even the WHO admits that there are no safe limits for mercury. With these fillings, it's like mercury clouds are continuously developing in your mouth, and from there feeding into the system. So something doesn't add up here. And there's also another problem with this material, and it's related to its physical properties. Teeth that have been filled with amalgam are structurally weakened for a number of reasons. Let me explain. Lots of the original tooth had to be removed before the filling gets put into the tooth. That by itself makes the tooth weaker. However, with amalgam, the material itself is expanding in volume when mercury is released in slow amounts over time. And that amalgam also oxidizes, and therefore it's putting pressure onto the remaining tooth structure. And just like in a thermometer, the mercury within the amalgam filling expands with temperature changes. So for example, if you drink something hot, then with the heat, the mercury is released, expands, and the volume of the filling expands and contracts. That's more stress for the remaining tooth structure. Next thing is that the filling material does not bond to the tooth. It just sits in there. It's not reinforcing the remaining tooth structure. It's not like with modern materials like composites, because composites, they are actually bonding to the tooth. In other words, they glue it all together, and therefore they are reinforcing the tooth. So when you're chewing on a tooth with an amalgam filling, it can lead to fractures, and that's often the case. Now, the big question remains, should all existing amalgam fillings be removed? Well, I would be very hesitant to say so, for a number of reasons. Let's look at the implications regarding mercury release when we remove fillings. Like for a normal day in a life of a filling, the WHO estimates that a little amount of mercury per day gets released, just a little. So the more filling you have, the bigger the exposure. However, removing an amalgam filling leads to a sudden exposure, a sudden explosive exposure of mercury, which is estimated to be 200 times of the normal daily exposure. So if the removal is not done correctly, the body is instantly exposed to an extraordinarily high amount of mercury. And if the procedure is not being taken care of, mercury gets into the body. Another reason why I would be hesitant to recommend the removal for everyone is that every dental procedure, every time we drill into a tooth, there are risks involved. For every new filling or restoration, the dentist needs to drill out even more of the original tooth. And often the amalgam filling is so close to the nerve that removing the filling involves a big risk of exposure of the nerve in the center of the tooth, or it triggers a serious nerve response. And that's often the death sentence for a tooth. So one person might get rid of the amalgam filling, but might end up with a root canal or an extraction instead. What a disaster. And also the new restoration put into the tooth might cause discomfort and problems. So there are a lot of things to consider, and an honest risk assessment needs to be done before embarking on such a procedure. And it's very important to evaluate the possible risks. And X-rays need to be studied carefully. How close is the existing filling to the nerve of the tooth? Is there a risk of causing more damage to the tooth during the procedure? So if you want amalgams to be removed because of the mercury content and you're concerned, or there are health issues because of the mercury, it might be worthwhile to check if mercury has accumulated in your body first and if it's causing problems. So mercury testing is available for that. Now, are existing amalgam fillings bad for everyone? Well, that's also very difficult to answer, because I've seen many healthy patients, even in their 80s or 90s, and they had the mouth full of that stuff, sometimes for more than 50 or 60 years. And they didn't have any health issues coming from that. They were healthy. And frankly, without this material, many of them would be toothless by now, because at the time, when they had the fillings done, apart from gold fillings, it was the only durable filling material available. However, if you decide to remove amalgam, it's important to have a safe protocol in place to protect the nurse, the patient, and the dentist. And for that, you need expertise and equipment. So, to sum it all up, in my opinion, dental amalgam should be avoided at all costs. However, removing these fillings, there are quite some risks involved, and it needs to be done very carefully and safely. Otherwise, if there are no health issues related to the amalgam fillings, it might be better to just leave them alone. Okay, there you have it. That's my take on amalgam fillings. If you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe to this channel. I also offer private video consultations, and if you want to talk about your personal dental situation with me, or if you have an urgent dental issue to discuss, or you want a second opinion on your dental treatment. So please visit me on dentaldecoded.com. You find lots of information, interviews, and more in-depth and unbiased information on all things dental, more from a holistic angle. Thank you for watching.